Hello, everybody. I'm Daniel. I'm the founder of Startup CPG, and welcome to one of my favorite webinars. If you're here, you're in the right place, and you know something that I want everybody to know, which is product information management is very important. Once you get into these big retailers, your data starts appearing on their websites, and it can be a bad thing if they don't have the right data about your product, and then all of a sudden your marketing manager is going to throw a fit because you have outdated or incorrect info showing up all over the internet about your product, and people don't like that about branding. Or you get into a big retailer and they're telling you, we need you to go and get your product information in the right place so that it can stream effectively all throughout our systems. So in the Slack, it comes up all the time. If you're not in our Slack, you should be there. There are almost 35,000 people in there. You can sign up on our website. If you are in there, you see people post all the time like, hey, does anyone know about One World Sync or Syndigo or Salsify? Like, I was told by the retailer I have to get this service and upload my stuff. Like, I don't know how to do that. It's really confusing. So I'm very happy that today we've got the pros here. We've got the team from Citation. It's also just exciting. Steve is a very good friend of mine for many, many years. We went to business school together 15 years ago. And so I'm really happy and excited that he agreed to come on and do this presentation. And they also have a lot of ways to make it simpler for all of the brands here. So I am going to pass the mic over to Citation to kick us off here. And let's just keep the chat warm. So any questions you guys have as we go throughout, feel free to drop them in. Steve.
Awesome. Thank you, Dan. First of all, let us give a huge shout out to everybody. Thank you very much for being here. Excited to have a first opportunity to meet all of you and your membership here at Startup CPG. Like Dan mentioned, we've known each other a very long time. Dan, you said 15 years ago. We graduated 16 years ago, so it goes back even further, I'm afraid. Getting a little long on the tooth here. But you guys have an amazing leader and an amazing resource in Dan. And I've stayed in close touch with Dan as he's built Startup CPG, and very happy to have a first opportunity to engage with all of you. So today we are talking all about product content. We're going to talk about product content, how it's published to key retailers and grocers. We're going to talk about some of the technologies involved, some of the challenges, some of the expectations of the buyers, merchants, category managers, whoever you might encounter on that side. And we're going to talk a bit about some of the best practices, what you can do to make sure you are standing out. Okay, so to get started, let's make sure I can easily navigate slides here. Okay, so I'd like you to meet Susan. Now, Susan is a category manager at a major grocery chain, and you are sitting across the conference table from Susan. She sees your product, she sees the cool packaging, she tastes it, she tries it out, whatever it might be, and she says, wow, this is awesome, I want it. And then you get into the conversation of onboarding. You start talking about data. And she finds out that you're not ready on the data side. And there's a point I want to make to you as we get started. Your product data is a product. Until that customer has that product in their hands, it is the only product they have, right? So they can interact with your data, with your images, with your spec sheets. But that's it. That's all they've got to go on until and unless they are able to get that product into their stores, onto their website, and eventually into their customers' hands, all right? So that's really important. So we're going to come back to Susan here a couple of times during our presentation. So while we're here, there's three big things we're looking for. Number one, we want to make the point to you that product data is an absolutely critical element of selling your product online, right? It is no question. You must have it. You must do it. Number two, grocers and retailers, many of them cannot and will not do business with you unless you can support their data standards, right? That is just a simple requirement that you have to meet. Your data has to be in the right format. It has to be complete. It has to be correct. And sometimes it has to be in the right systems, and the right systems of record in order to get it to them. And thirdly, we want to make the argument to you that this is a worthy investment of your time. This isn't something that you toss over the fence. It's not something that you try to outsource or do inexpensively. You as founders, brand managers, owners should be thinking about your content as a strategic asset. It helps you to stand out. It helps you to build an audience, and it helps you to build and grow your business online and in stores. So who are we? There's three of us here with you, four actually. We've got Adam over here working the cameras for us. I'm Steve Engelbrecht. I'm founder and CEO here at Citation. I am joined today by my friend and colleague, Jessica Bagby. Jess, you want to say hello?
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. Yes, my name is Jessica Bagby. I lead our managed services team here at Citation. So all of those systems we're talking about, all of those retailer portals, that's what my team is really experts in, and working across that complex ecosystem every single day to deliver that content and data to retailers and for brands big and small.
Awesome. And we've got an amazing resource here in Jess. She's got a huge list of incredible global clients, including many CPGs. She leads our managed services team here at Citation. So that's all of the day-to-day work that we're doing with these big brands, helping them to manage their data, publish their data, collect feedback and analytics, and then take action on that to make it better. We've also got Karsten Krohn over here, who you're going to meet later. Karsten is our Chief Revenue Officer, and he'll be coming in a little bit later in our presentation here. Okay, so what are we going to cover?
I know you
Yes,
guys have
hi, Dan.
a super sound system there. It sort of sounds like someone's like moving around, not you, because I don't think it's you guys because you're not moving, but it almost is like someone in that room is moving around and creating some like staticky noises, just so you know. I think it's okay.
Okay.
If you can't figure it out, it's okay. We'll go ahead just to acknowledge that.
Okay, we'll try to be careful. Well, actually, I see that mine has fallen over in my pocket. So
Oh, maybe that's
hang on
why.
1 second.
Yeah.
I'm going to switch to I'm switching to magnet mode.
All right.
Okay,
There we
hopefully
go.
that's better.
Okay, thank you.
I think it might have been me.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. By the way, we also have a child speech therapy place behind us, and they frequently scream with stuffed animals. So if you suddenly hear somebody screaming a nursery rhyme or something, that is not us. Maybe it is. It could be.
All right.
All right. So here's what we're going to cover today. I want to get into 4 main topics. The first one is we want to talk about PIM. And PIM is probably something you've heard of many times. We want to demystify it a little bit. PIM is Product Information Management. Secondly, we're going to talk about GDSN, which is a very common data standard, especially in the grocery world, but generally for CPG. We'll talk a little bit about PIM and AI, right? So obviously a very hot topic today, but thinking about the connection and overlap there and why it's important. And then finally, we have a little holiday present for you. Look at that handsome little graphic we made. All right, so we've got an exclusive offer for you that we want to help you get started in this world. We've got a free level of service here that will apply to anybody and everybody as a perk of your membership here in Startup CPG. So we're really excited to bring that to market and to share some more with you. Okay, so we want to give you a quick overview of who we are. Won't spend a lot of time here, but we are experts in this world. Product data is all we do. And we think a lot about that entire journey of product data, from building that initial content, or if you're a retailer distributor, collecting that content from suppliers, normalizing it, building it up, making sure everything is stored correctly in systems of record, and then all of the processes of getting it out to customers, to your channels, to marketplaces, to store systems, places like Amazon or eBay or Etsy or wherever it might go. And then very importantly, all the analytics that come back, right? Everything that says, here's how you're competing versus your peers, here's your fill rates, here's your search performance, and using that information to create a cycle of improvement so that you can compete and win in these extremely competitive online channels. Don't have to tell you guys how competitive this is. Dan, you've been in this world for a long time. I mean, it's fierce out there, right? You're competing against everybody and everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes. Was that
okay?
Yes, that is true.
That was a question.
Yes, it's very competitive out there, as it
Yeah.
should be.
It is, and it's just the real world. Especially you get into one of these channels like an Amazon or something, and it's just, there's thousands, tens of thousands, maybe even in your category that you have to deal with. Yes. All right, so we're going to talk a bit about that here as well. So, who are we working with? Just a quick high level. We're active across brands, manufacturing, retailers, and distributors. We are touching pretty much everything. We're working globally. We've got a big partner company over in Germany. And through our partnerships, we are a global organization ourselves, doing all kinds of work, collecting, pushing, managing this product data with both the product side and also the buying side, right? Working with the retailers and distributors is a different challenge. And I want to talk a little bit about that as we get started, because this can be very relevant for you. PIM applies to both sides of the equation, buying and selling, right? So if you are a brand or a manufacturer, you're managing your own data. And that can be very challenging to think about, what do your customers want? What does it need to look like? But then if you're a retailer distributor, you have sort of the flip problem that you want to say, okay, I'm going to create a place where I'm selling whatever it might be, energy drinks, I'm selling snacks, I'm selling alcoholic beverages, whatever it might be. First of all, how do I create a compelling marketplace to store that information? But then how do I collect all of it from my suppliers, make sure that it looks great, that it's consistent, that I'm building a a unique, differentiated experience inside my store while I'm using other people's products. And that's one of the really big challenges in what we do. Do you agree?
Absolutely. Yes.
So getting into some of the best practices here is really what we want to focus on today. And we're going to start by talking about what is PIM and why should you care? All right, so first thing to get into here is PIM is frequently used interchangeably to talk about either the business process of product information management or the software of product information management. And the truth is, it's really both, right? So when we think about PIM, it's the process and the systems used to create, manage, enrich, and publish all of your product data across every channel, right? So it's not just software. When you say my PIM is Salsify, my PIM is Syndigo, people in this industry will understand what you're talking about. But just because you buy a system doesn't mean you're great at PIM, right? PIM is business process, it's investment, it's analytics, right? It's thinking more and more about what do your customers want and need. It's reactive too. It's what are your competitors doing? How can you create a better experience in every channel to make sure that your product is really standing out? PIM is not optional, right? If you are selling online, you cannot get away from it. Frankly, even if you're not selling online, you still have to manage all of your data and say, these are the titles, these are the bullets, these are the shelf tags, these are the nutritional facts. All of that is part of PIM. Finally, it's not trivial and it's not easy. Is that there's no magic bullets here. This, again, requires your time and attention in order to do it really well. As a brand or manufacturer, this is where PIM fits into the equation. Jess is here. Jess knows everything about the syndication world of this. So I'm going to hand this over to Jess and have her help you to understand how important syndication is and what that means in the world of PIM. Go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we're talking a lot about PIM. We're talking about storing your data in one spot. But let's say you get all your data in, and what's next, right? It's not helpful to any of your trading partners, your retailers, if it can't be delivered to them in the format that they really need it. So not only do you need to make sure that your data is there, complete and accurate, you need to make sure that you can do the export and transformational processes to get it to those retailers in a one-to-many kind of capacity, instead of working in all of these separate portals and ecosystems individually over and over again, which we all know, I'm sure, what a pain that is when you have to set up the same item at 14 different places with different versions of that data, right? So the syndication aspect really becomes an unlock for your business and efficiency when it is built into your PIM in the right way and is available, ready, and accurate, so that then you can syndicate, meaning deliver that data out the door to any sort of endpoint that you need that to be, whether that be the big box retailers, Walmart, Amazon, Target, all the way to your direct-to-consumer website, so that none of these places are operating in silos and receiving that data from maybe different people in your organizations, different source systems. It really allows you to make sure that your data is going where it needs to go accurately and quickly.
And just to make sure, I just want to make sure I understand. And so basically, like the master data, which you've shown in the second, it's like all of your product content. So it can be imagery about your product and attributes and all that stuff. Syndication means, okay, you have that, and then it basically gets shared across all of these different retailers like Amazon, Target, and Target.com, and Walmart, GDSN, the global product data. So basically, you have all that stuff set up, then it gets spread everywhere.
Exactly. Syndication in its definition is one-to-many, right? Whether you're talking about reviews or product content, it's really allowing you to leverage that singular source system to go everywhere it needs to go. And it is like I said, it's a huge unlock in your business, so that you're not having to have these repetitive processes in all of these different places. You can really leverage one golden record and make sure that golden data is getting where it needs to go.
Yeah, I'm willing to bet that some of the folks in our audience here today are already in that situation where you are managing separate files of your product data so that you can send it different places. Yeah. And that really makes the point here, right? So the purpose of a PIM system and all of the business process that you're putting around it is to basically have one system of record where you are managing the best versions, the latest, greatest, most up-to-date, most complete versions of all of that product data. Right, and then being able to leverage that and go through mapping instead of maintaining all of those separate instances, those separate files, separate spreadsheets, separate naming conventions for all of your product images. That can get very difficult.
Yeah, let's talk about that a little bit. Some common scenarios for that we see are, let's say you've created 8 bullets for your product, right? Really robust, beautiful bullets, but hey, a certain endpoint only takes 5. And instead of having to do that manually, you can leverage one of these PIM and syndication engines to help you apply a transformation to say, hey, I really only want to send 1 through 5, or maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, and 8, right? Depending on what the content and what your strategy is around that content. Or maybe certain retailers, well, I know not maybe, most retailers have different requirements for title length, description length, all of those things. And so instead of having to manage those in one-offs, you can leverage this PIM system to identify that at scale and be able to apply that transformation out the door every time.
What happens if your product data is not compliant and you try to send it to a Target or an Amazon?
Yeah, you get feedback, right? And they're going to come back and through those direct API connections with most of the top PIMs in the space have that, meaning they have direct API channel to those retailers. You send something through that, well, there's kind of 2 points of failure here, right? One, they're telling you before it goes out the door that this does or does not meet the standard of that retailer. Sometimes things happen and it gets through. Maybe the retailers change things. The second point of failure would be that retailer says, hey, this is wrong, this doesn't meet our standards, and they send you a piece of feedback so that you can then fix it and send it back out the door.
Yeah, this is really good. So we're getting into, here's Susan again. Hello, Susan the merchant. So we're thinking about what Susan sees, like what's bad content, what's good content. We talk a lot about the PDP in our world, so that's the product detail page. That is your storefront in somebody else's store, right? That's your opportunity to shine. You get your information front and center. So that is, when I go to your unique product page on Amazon, on Target, on your own website, that is the PDP. Tell me some of your thoughts. What's good versus bad? What actually makes a difference? What are merchants looking for, and what are customers looking for?
Yeah, absolutely. We've definitely gone through a transformation in the last 5 years. I think, 5 years ago in this space, it was a lot of just the bare minimum, right? They need a description. Okay, I'm going to do a quick one. I'm going to send out the door. Hey, they need 5 bullets. Okay, we only have 3. We're just going to send it. And now it's really evolved to be, you need to maximize every character that they give you on that page to have a fantastic PDP. If they give you 8 bullets, you better be sending 8 bullets. If they give you 7 slots in the image carousel, send 7 images. You have to maximize every piece of that framework and that template so that you show up better, right? Your discoverability is better, which will then also lead to what we know is all coming is shopping through AI engines and the ability for them to pick up on all of that content. So at the very bare minimum, you need to maximize what they're giving you space for, I would say, to start.
Yeah, totally agree. So, and we're being a little bit silly here with this graphic, but starting over here on the left, I spent years working with advanced auto parts. Thousands of suppliers, lots of complexity. You've got everything from global companies selling billions of dollars of product to some very small businesses, and they're all expected to be held to the same standards when it comes to their content, right? And it's really hard. It's really hard as a smaller brand to find the time, the attention, the money, the consistency to put into it. But this is the point we're trying to make to you. So if you're a merchant and you're evaluating different solutions, this is how you put your best foot forward as a supplier, right? They're going to look at your product assortment. They're going to look at the images. They're going to look at the specs. They might read your product titles, read your bullets. Again, that's your product, and it makes a huge difference.
I'll add one final thing there. As you were talking, it made me think of, I've seen startup brands and smaller direct consumer assortments have better PDPs than the juggernauts in the space, right? Because the big, large enterprise organizations that have huge catalogs can't move as quickly or agilely to get those PDPs looking fabulous. And so I think it's an opportunity for the brands on this call and the startup space to really focus on that and make it a priority, because the big brands can't always get there fast enough.
Yeah, totally agree.
Yeah.
And when you've got a really, really large assortment, what we frequently find is that our biggest customers have to just skim, right?
Yeah.
They're picking their best opportunities and spending their time and money on those. Yeah. When if you can build a better process and you can think about this from the beginning, you can do a better job of making sure that this is prioritized and you're doing a good job.
Yep.
Dan, did you have a question?
Oh, no. I would love to know if anyone in the chat has gotten themselves in this situation. And people are here, I think probably a lot of people just to learn for the first time. But if anyone has gotten into a bad situation with PIM, I would love to hear about it. Like, yeah, we got into this one retailer and we hadn't set up the data, and then they pulled some stuff and it was really old or outdated or had the wrong info or it didn't have exactly what we wanted to show up. And then I don't know if you had any trouble trying to like get that fixed. So I just would be interested to hear about that from people. But there's sort of like you could there's a situation where you just wouldn't have submitted it, right? And then maybe that'll look a lot like that bad example that you had on the last page. Or there may be an example where like, what do they do in that instance? Are they just going to like go and pull some outdated stuff from wherever they could find it, or the buyer's going to make it up based off the slides that you sent, but it isn't really what you want? And I just remember I'm like very scarred by this because I worked at a company before where one day the CEO went and looked at Target.com and Walmart.com and just was like, this is awful. Like, why are these descriptions just like years old on our branding? And this is like not how we talk about our product. And then we like 10 of us race to try to figure out how to get it all corrected.
Yeah, I've actually, this was a couple of months ago, had a client that shared an email from a big box, not to be named retailer, from a merchant on their side that sent an email to the brand and said, hey, here's a prompt, an AI prompt I've used to update content from the brands I oversee to make sure that it met the standard. And I'm thinking, that merchant is adjusting content to meet a standard, right? Because the brand didn't do it. And now you end up with content that the brand might not approve of, or it doesn't meet the standard or the tone. And you've got buyers or merchants that are kind of going wild because they want to support their category on site. And so you want to make sure you get ahead of that so that none of that wild west stuff is happening without your consent.
Yeah, we've, having been in the trenches for a long time, we've seen it all.
Yeah.
The good, bad, and the ugly. And, this it's an area that is frequently underinvested, even for some of the largest brands and on the retail side as well. There's huge opportunities here. This is an opportunity to really make yourself stand out. And if you do this well and you are really aligned with what your customers are looking for, it leads directly to better search performance, better add to carts, better purchase rates, lower returns, all the things that matter, right? So it is a worthwhile investment. So we won't read all of these, but I just want to give you at a very high level, when we think about great content, what does that mean? And take a second here and do a little bit of a self-assessment. Pull up some of your pages, look at some of your products and think about, are you doing these things? Is your product data specific, right? What is it and what's different about the one that I'm looking at versus something else that you might sell? If you sell, 5 or 10 different SKUs or variants of your product, the one that I'm looking at, does it make sense for the specific product that I'm looking at? Is it branded, of course? Is it correct? That means both it's complete and it's up to date, right? It has to be the latest version. It has to be fully built out across whatever spec it might be and whatever channel. Is it compelling, right? It has to be good marketing content. Another piece of this that we haven't talked much about, it's not exactly PIM because it's not something that you manage, but it certainly is a component of the PDP, is reviews. Social proof, right? What are other people saying about your product? Are you responding to those reviews? Are you listening to those reviews and using it to take action and make things better, right? And then consistency, right? That's both consistency with yourself and your own channel on a given site. It's also being consistent across all of those channels, right? If somebody is seeing your product on your own site and then they encounter you someplace else, are they seeing the same brand? Are they seeing similar content? Are they seeing similarly structured, branded content in things like your images and your PDFs and spec sheets? And it matters, right? It really does all that up and it turns into something that can be a very impressive, very compelling presentation, even as a startup.
Let me ask you guys one question that just came in from the chat from Erin. She said that some of her clients struggle with inconsistency being updated, specifically with some retailers, like smaller regional independent retailers. So like they'll update everything in Syndigo and it'll be okay on Walmart or Target, even on like some retailers on Instacart, but then like one retailer will have some old stuff, like outdated imagery. Is that, like she mentioned, Gelson's, is that something like on their end, like they have to hit a button to get the update, or should it just always update that way?
Yeah, so some of those smaller regional grocery chains operate more as a data pull instead of a data push, right, receiver. And so they have their own cadence where they come in and they grab the data from that centralized data pool. And sometimes they're just a little behind, and it requires some consistent follow-up and ticketing process through directly to those retailers and those merchants to get things updated. Not every chain is quite up to date on their ability to receive content regularly and be able to ingest it in a way that keeps up with the number of content refreshes and product updates that are coming through.
I gotcha.
Especially in the separation between digital and on-shelf data.
I guess that's hard to totally control, but I'm glad it's getting updated on the Instacart retailers. That's the place where I'd want to be so sure that my best stuff was getting pulled through on there, because that's that's a real marketing page, and you want to make sure you got all the good stuff there.
Yeah, Instacart's really interesting because you can send content directly to Instacart, but in some cases, Instacart's also pulling from the retailer. And so there's multiple inputs there. So it's essential that not only you're sending that data directly to Instacart, but that the retailers that leverage Instacart are also getting that data so that they're pulling the same thing.
Yeah. Well, and I think this all kind of leads very naturally into the next topic. We're not going to spend a ton of time here, but look at this lovely robot shopping in a grocery store. I wonder how long it'll be before this is totally normal when we see things like this. All right, we're going to talk a little bit about AI, and we don't need to dwell on this. I think everybody's aware of what some of these systems are capable of, just how important this is. But maybe thinking a little bit about where things are going. This is a very rapidly developing world, right? And we really consider AI a growing, it's a very important, but a growing piece of our business as we're thinking about where are things going, how can we do more to help our customers think about this as a new channel. So these are kind of the very high level things that we're thinking about. I'm going to start on the right here. These are 4 things that you should be doing, maybe not every day, but weekly, periodically. You should be doing some research. Think about what is out there for your brands. These change all the time. We're trying to position ourselves as experts in the space. I have to consume reams of content every day of just all the new announcements that happen week to week. Monitor. See if your brand shows up, right? Do some test chats yourself. Talk about your category. Ask about a certain brand. These are being indexed the same way that search indexes are, right? In fact, Google is one of the major players in AI, right? So they're out there looking at sites. They're looking at press articles. They're looking at who's talking about your brand and how you could help to position yourself. Experiment, right? Try some things on your site. Try putting out more content, less content, more reviews, more narratives. See what gets picked up and where there's some opportunities for you. And prepare, right? Think about what's coming in the future. This means thinking critically about systems, tools, processes, vendors, what's out there to make sure that you're going to be part of this, because this is very likely the next big opportunity as a startup, as a player in the CPG world, of who your next customer is going to be. It's going to be a chatbot, right? A few more things mentioned here on the side, but really this is about, it's the same fundamentals that make for a great experience when you think about your own website or your PDPs on Amazon. If you are building great content, it will support all of your channels. That's the biggest thing, right? There's no special sauce for SEO versus GEO versus a PDP. Yeah. There you go, a little acronym soup, right? It's all the same stuff, right? Great content, being very precise about what the products are, being consistent, being complete, looking for typos and simple mess ups there, investing in great product imagery. These things really matter, and it's going to have a huge impact in the AI world as much as anything else. All right, we're going to keep rolling. We're going to get into a very important topic specific to the CPG, or mostly specific to the CPG world, which is GDSN. This is another really important industry term that many of you have probably heard. And Jess and her team deals with this every day, and I think can share some great insights on this. But let's start in just explaining what is GDSN, why should they care, what are the components of this?
Yeah, absolutely. So like the slide says, there's 2 critical parts when we're talking about GDSN. There's, on the one side, there's the standard itself, right, which is organized and governed by GS1, the organization that determined those standards and align with the framework for how your data really needs to be formatted. GDSN is the actual network itself, Global Data Synchronization Network. So that's the data pool where all this data lives, that's in the format defined by GS1, that retailers and trading partners can come in and grab it. It really is the foundational framework for supply chain data and robust like product specs about your product. So it can be a little scary, a little intimidating. I think when you hear these acronyms, but the way I view it and my team views it is that it's incredibly well defined. So there's hundreds of pages of documents through GS1 that say, here's the rule for every single one of your properties, right? So, and once you get through it once, you're defined and you're off to the races. And then it just becomes a little bit more about management. So, but major retailers rely on GDSN to receive all that critical supply chain data associated with your product.
I'm going to go ahead and look at the retailer slide here. So let's think a little bit more about this from the retailer perspective.
Yeah.
Why is it better for them to be a subscriber to GDSN data?
Absolutely. So instead of having to receive data individually from every single one of the brands that are carried in a grocery store, think about that, thousands, this allows them to grab all of that information for their entire product catalog from a singular place. So they're able to subscribe to a singular data pool within that network and receive updates from every single one of their brands from a single source. And so the economy of scale there is massive, right? So they're relying on brands to deliver that updated information through GDSN on a regular basis. And they're trusting that when they pull that data from that network, they're getting the latest and greatest. It's just absolutely so important for them to do business and buy your product.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And then let's think about it from the brand perspective, right? So if you're publishing in the data pool, first of all, we've got a little diagram here helping you to kind of understand the flow of things. It's not terribly complex, really. You have whatever data that you have that needs to be mapped into this GDSN structure that gets pushed over the data pool, and you create this cycle where they can give feedback. And if the standard changes, you need to make some changes on your side. But let's say you're a brand, you've invested the time and energy, you've built this out.
Yeah.
What benefits can you expect from this?
Absolutely. One of the big things is reduction in chargebacks, because if you've got inaccurate or stale data out there, right, let's think about how important dimensions are. That retailer or trading partner could charge you back and say, hey, this is way out of date. This was way wrong. Your weights have changed. It doesn't fit on the shelf. The pallet is different, and that impacts their costs. So at a very minimum, you can eliminate or reduce chargebacks by regularly updating your data through GDSN. It also ensures that your data is compliant and available, and that your time to market can be decreased and your product's available to be sold. If it's not set up through all channels, digital channels and GDSN channels, they're not going to be able to sell your product, which is the whole point, right? So,
what about discovery? What about like being part of the network is helping you to move faster for Susan the merchant or others that are out there in deciding who do they want to sell, who do they want to do business with? Can that help to shorten that cycle too?
Yeah, absolutely. Because if their main source of data is getting it through GDSN and you're not there, they might say, well, it's too difficult to sell your product, and decide not to do business there. So I think this is a ultimate cost of doing business as we talk about it, so that retailers can work with you and buy your product. Yeah.
Good stuff. Dan, you good with GDSN? Any other questions from chat here that we want to take on? Well,
yeah, I'm gonna save one for until we get through the next slide though, and then I have.
Okay, all right, sounds good. All right, so let's talk a little bit about who's doing GDSN, where is it, and what it is and what it is not.
Yeah, absolutely. So GDSN is not a PIM or an MDM system. It is a data pool. That data is, just think about all this data going into a singular location that people can put in and pull out, right? They can subscribe to certain brands and data sets so that they get updates. But it's not a PIM in the way that we're talking about the tools of a brand or a retailer. It sits in the middle. It's not a marketplace. They're not using it to shop what products to sell. It's not a marketing content library. GDSN, and this is an interesting topic actually I want to talk about, because historically GDSN has been very focused on supply chain data. Okay, so your packaging hierarchy, your everything you need, right, from the each all the way up to the pallet record. But it's because of the strength of its network and the standards that govern it, we're seeing a potential shift that digital content might start getting shared through that channel as well. We've actually had a couple of requests recently from Amazon for certain brands to deliver data in a GDSN format, which is we've kind of been hearing about for years, but it hasn't come to fruition yet. So I think packaging hierarchy, and when I talk about that, I'm talking about a GTIN for every record, every level of your product, right? From the individual consumer unit to the each, to the case, to the pallet, and having your data structured that way. I think I could see retailers continuing to move that way because it's so well structured and defined.
One,
Yeah, go ahead.
just to over explain it to people, can you
Yeah.
give me the 8-year-old's definition of, again, what is PIM versus GDSN?
Yeah, PIM is a brand or retailer owned technology. It's your source of truth for your products that you own, whether they sit on your retailer shelf or your brand products. GDSN is a network in the middle so that those two entities can talk to each other and transmit data back and forth. Is that how you would define it, Steve?
Yeah, well, like we've got here on this slide, I like to think of GDSN as another channel, right?
Yeah.
So your channels are your own website, right? Target, Amazon, Walmart. Think of GDSN as another destination for your data, right? You need to take everything that you have, you need to map it, you need to publish it there. But then once it's there, then thousands of places can see it.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so
one moment. Any other GDSN questions
yeah,
there?
well, it's not specific to GDSN. One that came in is basically like, what's the best way to manage the different distributor or retailer verified content requirements with different syndication services?
Yeah.
And then
Yeah. So
go ahead. Go ahead, please.
I was going to say there's a lot of players in this space, and I know everybody's hearing platforms thrown out there like One World Sync, Syndigo, Salsify, right? Akinio, maybe some of the others out there. There's a lot of different systems. They all play different roles. There are some what we like to call walled gardens with certain retailers and certain systems. You have to understand that. In many cases, you end up needing multiple systems just because of the relationships that those platforms have built. So I'll give you a few examples that I'm sure you've kind of heard of, right? If you want to deliver content to Ahold, you need to go through Syndigo for verify my product and have them verify your data. If you want to deliver to Whole Foods, you need access to IX1, which is more of a portal than a tech solution. If you want to deliver to Wakefern, which is ShopRite, you have to have Brand Bank. So all of those things come into play when you're talking about building a syndication tech stack that can meet all the needs of who you want to sell to. I can go deeper. I can go as deep as you want on this this topic. So you let me know.
I think I like this topic a lot, and I think this is actually central to a lot of the questions that brands have. And I know we're about to get into this, so I also really appreciate this question, which is the setup, which is Kenzel says, a retailer here, I can even show this question on here, which is a good one. A retailer asked us to get on River IX1.
Mm-hmm.
I'm only in 10 of their stores though. It's hard to justify those kind of fees because these things are expensive. Are there any alternatives that are cost effective, like cross systems? Oh, sorry, I lost the question.
Yep.
That are cross system compatible or like, cost effective options.
I so wish I had a magic bullet for you for this. Unfortunately, in a lot of cases, it's kind of like what I mentioned earlier about walled gardens and tech platforms that have partnered so closely to some of these systems that they're completely intertwined. And so you really can't do one without the other. And I know platforms like River or IX1, I think the fees are based on per product record. And as of right now, there's not another way to deliver that information to those retailers without going through those portals. You can certainly always call up your merchant and kind of, see what you can do if there's any flexibility. But ultimately, if you think about the systems that are in place, that retailer has connected their internal systems to a River, to an IX1. So they're expecting to be able to get all of that information from a singular place to make their lives easier and improve their processes. So in today's world, no, but things shift often in this space, and exclusivity changes often. So we just saw that last year with Kroger and One World Sync. Used to be exclusive in terms of data delivery. Now it's not. And Kroger decided, hey, we want to open up the doors. We want to be able to receive content and data from other PIMs in the space like Syndigo and Salsify.
All right. And we have a new guest joining us.
Yeah, we did a little bit of a switcheroo here behind the scenes while no one was watching. Hi, everyone. I'm Carsten. I'm the CRO at Citation. I come from industry, not necessarily yours, but I worked in toy, sporting goods, and personal care, managed digital teams globally, utilized PIM systems, went through the syndication piece, the GDSN piece as a customer, and now with Citation for the last 6 years.
All right. Cool. Should we keep it going?
Let's do it. We do have a fun slide. So we have an exclusive offer for the Startup CPG community. And we don't want to leave here today without adding some value for you all. And there's a one fundamental piece that is free for every member. So don't hesitate, scan the QR code, sign up. This is free until the end of this year. So you have until December 31st to sign up. Ultimately, what this does give you PIM essentials. It gives you the ability to upload your product content, your digital assets, your descriptions, store them in our system. And in return, you'll get a digital catalog. So you get a publicly shareable URL. You can add this to your website. You can send this via email. You can share that with anyone that you want to do business with, or people that want to take a look at your product data. And so this is free of charge. You don't have to pay anything for it. You can manage and enrich your data as you like. And ultimately, as a next step, we want to publish that data and make it available to ChatGPT. So give you like a competitive edge as to how agentic and generative engines discover your product. That is the free part of it. Really, go ahead.
I posted the link here in the chat in case anyone didn't want to have their phone out to scan it. You can just click what I posted in the chat here.
Perfect. And then for everyone who has received the request to upload their data into GDSN or is doing it today but not really well, we want to simplify your life as well. So once you get your data into the system, we will then take care of it to map that data to those GDSN standards. There's a cost associated with it, as you can see here, but ultimately this is your gateway into publishing data into the GDSN. If you're using any other system, any other providers as a one-off, however you're doing it today, this is for Startup CPG members only, and you will be able to manage, maintain, and enrich your product data and continuously publish through this portal into the GDSN data pool. We're doing this together in a partnership with Salsify. So we are a big Salsify or a global Salsify partner. We do a lot of work with them. They have a great solution for it. So they graciously supported us on this endeavor. This is typically a pretty expensive piece of technology, and we are using this for Startup CPG. So if you have the requirements of GDSN, if you need to do those, go ahead and sign up. After this call, we will provide an open house session where you guys can join and ask questions how this all works out. So we will follow up with you once you sign up via an email and then get all the next steps facilitated that way.
And I just want to give everybody a little context behind this too. We mentioned at the beginning, Steve, who runs Citation, is a very good longtime friend of mine. And he and the Citation team, I think, just forever have been trying to figure out how can they take something like this that often was engineered for much bigger brands and bring us something that is much friendlier for early stage brands, because the stuff out there is very disparate and it kind of sucks and it's really complicated to get set up. And you guys will see that in the Slack, people being like, I have to do one world sync. Like, I don't know how to do it. This sucks. And so I really want to thank Steve and Carsten, everybody, for just bringing a solution to us. And like they are trying to make this really affordable for early stage brands and something so you can just set it and forget it and it's going to work everywhere. So I really appreciate their partnership on this, because this is one of those solutions that will be right sized for our community. I hate seeing people pay too much or spend too much time on stuff like product data. So thank you guys for working really hard to bring us something that works for people.
Absolutely. We do have we put the QR code here one more time. Go ahead and scan it, but opening this up to questions and concerns and hopes and dreams, anything. This is now the last 13 minutes we can use for open questions.
Yeah, if anybody has questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat here. One that came up from Miora is, let me show it on the screen here. River, Syndigo, Brand Bank, like what is the relation with all those things? And I think that would be GDSN.
Yes. So one of those is a GDSN certified data pool, and the other two are portals specific to some retailers. So Syndigo does have a certified data pool, so does Salsify. So you could leverage Syndigo for their GDSN data pool services in tech. River is specifically associated with, I know for sure, Whole Foods. I think there's a couple of others. That's a newer one in relation to IX1. And then Brand Bank, similarly, is a middleman, so that they service more retailers, but generally we see it for the Wakefern banners, so that they can receive content, digital content, and images. So different, similar in the same space, but have similar or have different uses. And a lot of times, you need all of them. Syndigo is the one that's that there's that same functionality lives within other platforms. They're a PIM and a syndication engine, just like Salsify, but River and Brand Bank are specific entry points for retailers.
Okay.
It's confusing. I get it.
Another one said, I think you mentioned before a little bit of like who uses which one. And Henry said that's really helpful to know who uses which. Is there a list out there of all of them? Is what was his question, like who uses Brand Bank and IX1 and all that?
You send me an email and I'll send you a list. How about that?
Ew,
Citation can help with that. A lot of I'll tell you, to be honest, right? We're a third party. We're a support agency and consulting firm that works across all of these things, but none of those individual platforms are going to give you that list, right? Because they want to drive you all to using only them. And they're going to say they can do it all, but typically you need multiple to be able to service all the data needs of your retailers.
Yeah.
Okay. And I don't know if everyone has your email, but is that you want to give out your email or just have them go in through scanning the QR code?
Yeah, going through scanning the QR code, and those can get forwarded, and we can also send contact information after this. Also, feel free to look me up on LinkedIn, Jessica Bagby, send me a message, and I'll do my best to answer your questions.
That's a very nice offer. And yeah, guys,
hey, yeah. Was this a bad idea? How many people are on this webinar?
No, just kidding.
Right. I get it. I'm happy to help.
Yeah, for anyone, I would really encourage you guys to scan the code because they'll keep you updated as this offer evolves also, and you can learn more about exactly what it's going to cover. So I definitely encourage everybody. Okay. And another question that came in from Jordan is, I'm at the very beginning of the journey to getting my product into mainstream retail. What data should I bring to the initial pitch? And do PIM and GDSN help secure retail placement, or is this something we only need when we're ready to scale?
I love that question.
I'll let you handle the aspect of it. So PIM and GDSN itself, they're also not a magic wand that every retailer says, perfect, let's go. But what that does is it indicates that you are thinking about this topic and that this is an important step for you and that you want to cater to their requirements. So a PIM system is not going to change your life unless you utilize it, manage your data. And a retailer sees that and says, okay, this person cares about product data. This person cares about accurate content, accurate information for me. So having the foundational pieces in place will send a very positive message to any retailer thinking that you are very much active and ready to take the next step. But from a data perspective.
Yeah, maybe I'll add on to that as somebody who has pitched many products in many meetings. It's never come up where they're like, so tell me about how you're set up with, PIM and GDS. Like the extent of it would only be like, by the way, if we let you in, you need to make sure that you're set up on XYZ so we can get the product data. Especially at the early stage, it's maybe you'll hear that, especially like, you get into Wakefern or Kroger, like they are going to tell you that you have to be set up there. I would say, but even other retailers that may not mandate that you have to be on one of those platforms initially, it could just come up because they get you onboarded and then you load up and then you look at their website and your data is wrong. So
Right.
and then you're like trying to bother the buyer, like, hey, could you fix that? And they're like,
Mhm.
that's like not really what I want to spend my time doing. Like, did you forget your PIM? You know,
Yep.
does that sound about right?
Yeah, it does. So another analogy is there too. So in my professional career, I pitched to Target and Walmart, and many times this was a competitive edge where we were selected as a brand to sell to them because we did have great content, and digital is such an important avenue for them.
Mm.
So again, the system itself is not going to help you break that
Mhm.
door open, but the processes and the idea of taking ownership of your content and getting ready for the retail spaces, that is the important piece here. And PIM will help you get there. Not a requirement for early stage companies, but digital e-commerce content is going to be really, really important. That's how
Yes.
everybody browses and searches and buys.
Yes. Yeah. Retailers will be excited about hearing about a brand that has the technology. They're thinking ahead and they're thinking about that you're making an investment in technology to support those digital shelf efforts, responding to requirements changing, responding to new initiatives on, hey, guess what? Now you can put text on images at Target. That was a
Mhm.
big one this year.
Yeah.
How fast can you respond to it? Or is it going to be manual and it's going to take you a while to gather everything? But if you're there and you have all of that information and you've invested in a system to store it, you can react quickly and be ahead of it, which is great.
That's cool. Text on images for a Target
Yeah.
website. Oh, cool.
Yeah. So it used to be that you couldn't have text on images, which meant you were sending different assets to Walmart versus Target, which you can still do that today, but you had to be really prescriptive about not sending images that had text on them. Walmart's another one where you have to have a image of the item in packaging. Target doesn't require that. So there's all these different PDP specific requirements that end up taking a lot of time as you scale your product catalog. The more products you have, the more PDPs you have, the more setup you are, the more you have to manage. So getting into maybe investing in some sort of tech early or support mechanism through an organization like Citation, like we do, will help you react to that and scale faster.
Okay, cool. So I don't see any other questions coming in right now, but I'm just going to show everybody again the QR code leads to the link that I've got up on the screen now. So if anybody wants to go visit there, sign up, get the info from them, whether it's applicable for you right now or you want to hang on to it in the future, I think it'll be good for you to be registered with this team because there's a lot of cool stuff coming. All right. Robert said he's all signed up, and thank you.
Awesome.
So I'm going to close this out here. Again, thank you to the Citation team because this is just one of those areas of the business where you just kind of like bang your head against the wall. Like, why is it so complicated to like get this stuff done? It's so like nonsensical. So thank you for helping clean it up and make it easier for brands. So we really appreciate your guys' efforts there. And I know everyone else does. Everyone's chiming in the chat saying thank you for this. So we can get this stuff done and have it be nice and consistent and get back to dominating the world with our products and getting everywhere all at once with everything. So thank you.
Looking
guys.
forward to those LinkedIn messages. I'm going to be checking.
Send them out.
All right. Be careful what you wish for. You're going to have a lot of questions. Okay. All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you for
Awesome.
the time.
Thank you.